So this is going to be a pretty raw video. It's not going to be anything fancy, no quick cuts or shorts or fancy lav mics. I really wanted to just word vomit. I don't see at this moment in time the interactions between people within different political realms getting any better. And I'm sure a lot of you understand that this has been caused by a lot of things in our culture. And one of those things, eyebrows bothering me, it's weird. One of those things that is causing this rift is the fact that people have began to identify or create an identity for themselves based off of a political idea. And rather than creating your character and creating your identity through your own life experiences and through your actions, you're doing it in the name of ideology. And when you become that ideology, which is what's happening with a lot of people, when you become that ideology and the ideology itself fails, and the ideology itself dies, a part of you will die with it. And that part of your character and that part of your identity that could have been formulated by any aspect of your life outside of politics, that part of you will never be able to come back. And you lose the essence of almost like you have a space within your mind for different identities that you build throughout your life. And when those spaces are filled and you no longer identify with that ideology, it's no longer your identity because the ideology died off. That space doesn't empty. You don't lose. The ideology doesn't leave the space within your character. And I should say that your character is made up of identities. But when you allow an ideology to fill a space, then what happens is you've now lost the opportunity to create another puzzle piece of your identity, because you filled it You filled it with an sometimes esoteric idea. But here's the other danger, is that when you begin to identify with the ideology, then that ideology becomes a part of you. So when you get into a discussion with someone about the ideology, which should not be a part of your identity or character, there are certain traits that you have that make you lean one way or the other. A lot of people have talked about this. A lot of psychologists have talked about this. It's very interesting, sometimes way above me. Most of the time way above me. But I have a very sort of knuckle draggers understanding of and you can see the patterns of people, that certain people have certain characteristics that drive them towards a type of political view. Whether it's creativeness or conscientiousness, empathy, etc. All characteristics that every person has, but at different levels. However, when you make an ideology a part of your character, when you have a discussion with someone, they are now not only attacking the ideology, or I should say not attacking, but criticizing or debating the ideology, which everybody should do. And I've talked about it on Shorts. I think just because your idea and your criticism of an ideology may offend someone doesn't mean you shouldn't have that discussion. But when someone criticizes an ideology that you have now made a part of yourself, that becomes personal. So now when they criticize or debate the ideology, they're now criticizing you personally. So you feel personally attacked, and maybe this is not it, but I almost feel like it could be that maybe this is just a part of it, just a small smidge of why we're seeing conversations, normal conversation that should be normal, that should be civilized, turning into screaming matches between people of opposing political views. Everyone talks about everything's political. A lot of people say that everything is political, which, yes, a lot of things have become political in nature, but why is my question, and how? And I think the why and the how relate to how we now identify ourselves as no longer as individuals. We've been conditioned throughout our lives to now identify with a group and an ideology. We are no longer an individual. If someone looks at me and sees this right here on my shirt, they may make assumptions about me, and that is them unconsciously projecting their own identity and their sense of identity, because their only sense of identity is what a person represents as an ideology. It's not the individual anymore. You are literally engulfing your being, your soul, in someone else's idea. And you're not you anymore. You become the ideology that you so support and that you stand with. it's understandable that there are hills to die on. There are moral hills to die on. But we've gone past that, where we cannot recognize when we're having a discussion versus an argument. And we cannot differentiate now consciously between a debate on an ideology versus a personal attack. I don't know. Maybe that's not a big part of what's been happening. But what I've been seeing, as I try to pay attention as best I can to what's been happening around the world, I almost feel like we've gotten to that point where we will die with the ideology. So that's part one. Part two coming up. Let me know what you think in the comments.